tonight, Ohio political news. I still don't have my applause. I don't have the applause. I don't have the confetti. I don't have anything. I feel naked without it. That's what it is. But how's it going? We are short-staffed tonight. Look at this guy's on AWOL. How you doing? Jonathan is with us here tonight.
Hey, everybody.
Good to see you. And we do have a special guest tonight, John Stover. He's the president of Ohio Value Voters. There's nobody higher than you at that group, right? You are it.
Well, Joe, I tell you, it used to be, you'd say that title and a dime and get you a cup of coffee. Probably be about $1.25 now. But yes, I am the president of Ohio Value Voters.
Well, I am. We are honored to have you with us tonight. Really, seriously. I got a couple of things I want to talk about real fast. Then we get to John. But first, this right here, what we're doing here is this is our X account, Ohio Political News. You can follow us. We are a catalyst for conservative change right here in Ohio. But I just want to go through a couple items that we have on here. Hey, that should be started already. I got to double check on that. That should be running. All right. Pam Bondi. Listen, guys, I want to get your take on this real quick. And that is the thing with what's going on with the Epstein files. I mean, you've heard about that. You've heard that these three guys here. Let me bring this down. Actually, two guys and a girl. They're telling us there's nothing to see here anymore. I mean, it's like it's blowing my mind, the whole thing with Epstein, because now they're saying there's no client lists, there's no videos, and there's nothing. Like Epstein was like this citizen, this fine, upstanding citizen. And by the way, he didn't commit he committed suicide. Nobody tried to kill him. So there's no hanky-panky or anything going on there. Unbelievable. I just thought it was off the charts to be reading that kind of stuff, because I always thought, we could get filled up with that with the Democrats, but with the Republicans in there and Trump and everything. But this is just, no one believes it. No one is believing that story. This is Mark Mitchell here from Rasmussen. Just to give you a quick rundown on it. In 2024 of November, they were teasing us by saying that there was going to be a major file drop of Epstein files. And then in January, they claimed that the client had, it was on Pam Bondi's desk, okay? She's ready to just release everything. And then they said they couldn't release it because it got redacted by the FBI. That was in February. Then in March, they actually told us, Pam Bondi said there's a truckload of documents coming. May, they say there's thousands of videos. And then now in July, it's like, nope, nothing to see here. It's gone. Go away. Go find something else to do. You ever hear of, just get your thought on that real quick. You ever hear of anything as ridiculous as that?
Well, actually, I hate to say it, but I have. And it's a recent example of the J6 videos. We've got this ongoing kick the can recurring promise to deliver those J6 videos that I believe clear virtually everybody involved in January 6th. It was, by the way, as a side note for anybody that may not be up to speed, it was not an insurrection. It was a false flag operation that was designed for political purposes. And we have American citizens who were persecuted because of it. Those of us who know have been clamoring for videos. There's something like an estimated 44,000 hours of video that would absolve many of those people who were held for years without sentencing, without due process, and we continue to push for that. And it's the same thing. We had Speaker Johnson, who was elected Speaker of the House with the promise that he was going to be releasing those videos, and now we have the same thing with these Epstein files. We have people who are supposed to be doing their job of creating transparency in our government, and they're not doing their job. By the way, as a side note, we're running the show a little bit differently tonight. We're down a few people. Kent is not running the tech and Brian unfortunately is out. I am making a point in this podcast of monitoring social media. If you're on Facebook or Rumble and have a comment, please do post it. We may not get it up right away, but my intention is to read your comments and ask your questions and try to get any questions you may have answered. So if you see me multitasking, it's not my normal role on this podcast, but we're all going to chip in and do our best.
All right. So I want to encourage everybody to, chat. If you're on Facebook, you're going to have to cover Facebook too, Jonathan, if you're able to. If not, so be it. But try to chat. We'd really love to hear what you have to say because we want to invite you into the conversation. So let's get to the main guy here, John, the president of Ohio Value Voters. So I'm going to pull up your website right here. Let's move this over. Here it is. And you got a lot of really good stuff in here. And I was reading about your statement of faith and values, and it's all about God. God comes first in everything, and that's my kind of website right there. But listen, you were one of the things with your Ohio Values Voters. Oh no, boy, did we lose John? John, are you there? Shoot. John, are you there?
Oh no, did we lose John?
A little bit, froze up. I got to see if we can get you back. See if we can get you back. Are you out there,
John? If you can hear us, John, drop out and come back in again.
Wait.
No?
I'm trying to retrieve him now. Are you there, John? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? John. Oh, boy.
Well, now there's movement.
Yes, I can. Once again, I apologize, Joe. I'm dealing with an unstable situation.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out. Do you want to just John, we cannot hear you. Do you want to just call in on your cell phone and we could just do this through the I'll just pick up your audio. Or maybe I can pick up your picture too. Are you using a cell phone or a laptop?
No, I'm using a laptop.
Do you want to okay, well if you cut out again, you could always just try it again with your cell phone if you like, but all right, let's see what we can do here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so let's get started then. Let's get right to it with this Ohio Values Voters. So there were certain overrides from DeWine. Governor DeWine he vetoed, I shouldn't say overrides, he vetoed 67 line items, and some of them directly impact your organization. Did you want to talk about a few of those?
Well, the two that primarily, Joe, that we are interested in seeing overridden by the General Assembly have to do with education savings accounts. There were a number of chart of this is going to rectify that, and then also the General Assembly wanted to do their part in seeing that inappropriate material in books were not in the children's section of this one as well. So these two are the two primary ones that we are looking at as an organization.
All right. So why would, for instance, let's take the pornographic material and the books and stuff like that. Why would DeWine veto moving that material so that really, really young kids would not be able to access it?
Well, that's a good question. This is not something that
yeah, we're losing them.
Our organization will.
Well, hey, John.
John, the audio is cutting in and out. Joe, maybe makes sense at this point to have John call in. If you can just capture his image, you can use his image and maybe an audio call only, so we can make sure to hear what he has to say.
Well, he's going to have to call in. John, if you can hear me, you're going to have to call back using your cell phone. Just connect connect using your cell phone. I think I sent you the link on your cell phone. He's left. Yeah, it's going to be tough. And this happens.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Joe. We're dropping again here. Is there a number you want me to dial in? I can do that.
Now, I sent you a link to your cell phone. Do you want to just click on your cell phone, use the cell phone? You might have a better. And even if it's just audio. Even if it's just audio.
If there's a number I can dial in, can you provide that number, or do you send it to my...
Well... I did send you a did I or did I not? I thought I sent it to your cell phone, John. I thought I sent it to your cell phone.
I don't see it here. If there's a number, I can dial that number in.
Okay, hang on a minute. Hang on one second. Jonathan, do your world famous juggling act. I can put you on for a minute.
Okay. Yeah, switch over to me, and I will make up a topic to cover a little airtime here while we work on some tech issues. Be patient, bear with us. We are expecting a very exciting show with.
Hang on one second. John.
Yep.
Stover. When I sent you the text that says "Join our cloud HD video meeting" in blue, do you see that?
Hey, Joe, do you want to send me whatever it is you've got? Send that to me, and I'll make sure to text it to John.
Let me. I'll just resend it to him.
Yeah. If you have a email address, I'm sorry. If you send it to my email, I can call in. Is there a number to dial?
Okay, I just sent you the link. I got to do it through Zoom, unfortunately. We just could do the audio through Zoom, but I just sent you the link to your cell phone. Do you see it?
Yeah, I just clicked it on.
Okay.
Good. There we go.
Let's see if I can join the meeting.
So, folks, overwhelmingly, these live podcasts are extraordinary. They give great opportunity for you, the people, we, the people, our listening and watching audience to ask questions, get their questions answered, and be a part of the conversation, which is really important to us. Joe started this about 2.5 years ago with the mission and the objective of getting timely, insightful information to the people of Ohio about primarily political issues. And we've had the great fortune of having an array of terrific guests, including tonight's John Stover.
Right.
However, a downside to going live.
Downside is this. But wait, one second, Jonathan. One second.
Issues.
Yeah, hey, Joe, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not able to get in by way of my phone. Do you have a number I can dial in by chance? I can dial in a number if you have that.
Well, see, I don't have an actual phone number to dial into. I have to take you through Zoom, unfortunately. If you want to, John, do this.
I'm sorry. I'm just dealing with some real technical issues here. I'm not sure what the problem is.
Yeah, okay, but let's try one more thing here. Just boot out, and then try to come back in with your cell phone by clicking that blue join our cloud video meeting I just sent you. Okay? Give it a shot. So you can just boot out and give me a call with your cell phone.
Hopefully that works.
Yeah, hopefully that works. We'll find out here in a second. But
and I'm keeping an eye on Facebook and Rumble for any comments. Welcome everybody. I see the numbers in Rumble and good. Welcome everybody. So just keeping an eye on this. We will be up and running here momentarily. Just a
let me try this.
Setback.
John, did you boot out and come back in?
Yeah, it's just still breaking up very, very badly on my end.
Once got a pretty bad connection, I think. That's what it is. You're probably running off of Wi-Fi. Is there any way to run off your Ethernet connection? would you be able to just plug it into your Ethernet? Into your laptop?
No, the only other thing I can think of here, I try to reboot the equipment over here, but well, I apologize, Joe. I'm not sure what's going on here.
Yeah, it happens all the time. You get bad connection. Go ahead and reboot one last time if you think that'll
Yeah,
help.
let me try that.
Sure. Just go ahead and reboot and come right back in. Well, that's why I like. See, one of the reasons I like doing the live stuff is because you never know what's going to happen. But all right, Jonathan, let me get your take on this thing. Oh, this is Jim Tressel. All right, this is Jim Tressel, who possibly could be the next governor.
I'm Jim Tressel, president of Youngstown State University. This year, the 7th annual Diversity of Scholarship event will be a virtual event. This event is a collaborative event between the College of Graduate Studies, the Office of Research Services, and the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
Did you hear them words right there? Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
That word university, in my mind, means unity in diversity. It's young people leaving their cultural background, maybe that has been somewhat limited, coming to a university where there are people coming from lots of different directions, and we have a chance to create that unity in the diversity. And so we don't have a greater goal than the creation of our wonderful, diverse, unified population here at Youngstown State University, and the scholarly activity is like cherry on top.
So what are you saying? Is that the main reason you go to Youngstown State University is for diversity, equity, inclusion? That's what he's saying right there. That's the main course, and the cherry on top is a scholarly, you might learn a few things here or there. Unbelievable, huh?
If you are able to navigate the non-learning environment sufficiently, you might inadvertently, accidentally learn something on top of the critical race theory racism that they plan on instilling. So here's a suggestion for you. Anybody out there listening, I encourage you to go on, I'm looking right now at Facebook. There's a Facebook post for, I believe it's free, free online course from Hillsdale College on the American left. It's called Understanding the American Left. And it simply states, Franklin Roosevelt, Lyndon Johnson, and Barack Obama all called themselves liberal, but their ideas and policies differ greatly. In a free online course, American Left, Hillsdale College professor Kevin Slack explains the distinctions between these liberal, I'm air quoting that, politicians and what these changes mean for America today. That is Marxism. If you pick up anything having anything to do with Marxism, it will lead you directly into critical theory. Critical theory has to. Its primary initial job is to create oppressor and oppressed. From that, you can take over and destroy a society. It's been done over and over and over again, and it seems like each time there's a new parade of woke, unintelligent individuals who get caught up in it and think that this time they're about to make this just society and it's going to be this utopia. And it happened to Korea and China and Soviet Union and Yugoslavia and Cuba and Venezuela. It happens all over the world. The mission now is for us to squash this stuff in the United States. There are some places that have seen it start to sort of matriculate and bubble up to the surface, that have fought back and turned the stuff off. Don't allow it. It has invaded our education system. By the way, it shouldn't be any mystery to anybody. We've had about 70 plus years of anti-American left telling us specifically in no uncertain terms that one of their primary objectives is to take over and destroy the American education system. It's been referred to as how to defeat America without firing a single shot. They're going after the education system. It started with all this woke, Marxist, far-left, anti-American rhetoric in college campuses. And then once they'd perfected it and destroyed colleges and made dumbed-down, insufficient, incapable humans out of college graduates, they brought it down into K through 12. And now it has invaded the silver lining, and I think most people have come to this realization. One of the key silver linings to the whole COVID thing is people woke up to that, and people now see what's been happening in our K through 12 environment. In the state of Ohio in particular, we have several times now actually dumbed down our academic proficiency standards. We've softened them. And then once people got wise to the fact that they're still not teaching children how to be adequate, sufficient, self-sustaining adults, they changed the whole grading system. Remember that a few years ago when they did away with A through F and made it this mysterious, nebulous sort of undescribable thing with these hieroglyphics instead of grades? Well, now, instead of parents, and it's designed to confuse people, instead of parents recognizing that their kid is not doing well and that their school system is an abject failure at 10 times the price, now they attach these things like blue ribbon school. Ooh, it's like 3 stars. Nobody knows what that actually means. In reality, we have horrible education systems. And part of the reason, a big part of the reason that they got there is through implementing Marxist ideologies in K through 12 and colleges, actually in reverse order. They started in colleges, they took over college campuses, and we're seeing the result of 50 plus years of dumbing down Americans. You now have these people who are graduating, I have to air quote that, graduating with high honors from K through 12, going on to college where they need remedial courses in order to be able to learn to read and comprehend basic English, you see them all the time. If you're ever on social media, watch all these sort of man on the street videos of just random interviews with 30 and under who have no idea what country is to our north or south, and they don't know our state capital by name, and can't make change for a $20 bill, don't know who fill in the blank, they don't know who George Washington or Abraham Lincoln or John Adams are. They don't know these people. They don't really know the system of government in place in the United States. That's by design, and there are some people who are fighting back. They've written some great documents and books about how we got to where we are, and one of them that jumps out at me is the dumbing down of the American citizen. Actually, I think I'm slightly off on the title. I'll look that up and throw the title out for people to read.
Well, hang on one second. Let me just see if we can get our guest back on here, okay? Well, we can continue with your conversation, but I want to see if we've got him. John, I'm going to try to bring you over. Are you there? Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me?
I certainly can. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you. Yes, I can.
I tell you, I heard, I picked up quite a bit of what Jonathan stated, and, this is why, we felt he was doing such a great job for us when he was with Protect Ohio Children. I had mentioned earlier, Jonathan, to Joe that, you still are involved to some extent, but not to the degree you were, but I couldn't agree more with everything that Jonathan stated.
Right. Okay, let me just piggyback off this, Jonathan. We can always come back, circle back around with what you were saying, which we agree with 100% there. But I want to get your take on this because this was John Stover. This was off of your website here, and this was Jim Tressel. And I don't think you guys have any love lost when it comes to Tressel.
I'm Jim Tressel, president of Youngstown State University. This year, the 7th annual Diversity of Scholarship event will be a virtual event. This event is a collaborative event between the College of Graduate Studies, the Office of Research Services, and the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
I love
word
those
university in my mind means unity in diversity. It's young people leaving their cultural background, maybe that has been somewhat limited, coming to a university where there are people coming from lots of different directions, and we have a chance to create that unity in the diversity. And so we don't have a greater goal than the creation of our wonderful, diverse, unified population here at Youngstown State University, and the scholarly activity is like cherry on top.
Yeah, so what I was just telling Jonathan, we got into that discussion, was, Trussell was saying there that the main reason you're going to Youngstown State University is for the DEI, and scholarly activities and writing, all that is just a cherry on top. So they're paying all this enormous fees and everything to go to college, so they can be indoctrinated into DEI. So you had that up on your website. I mean, what's your thoughts about Trussell and all that?
Well, Joe, Jim Trussell, as I stated in what we Ohio Value Voters put out about a month and a half ago, if we were basing the next governor that we wanted to get behind as an organization, and I'm sure people in the entire state of Ohio, if we were basing it on the fact that in 10 years he beat Michigan 9 out of those 10 years, he brought a national championship to the state of Ohio in 2002. And he's going to go down in history as one of the great coaches here in Ohio. But, we're not evaluating people on the type of coach that they were to be the next governor. That's why our organization has come out 100% in support of Vivek Ramaswamy to be our next governor. The thing that bothered me whenever I had seen the video and then the photo op that was taken earlier this year in March, whenever the governor signed Senator Jerry Serino's bill, which had to do with eliminating this woke nonsense and DEI and, taking money from China and so forth, and also reeling in, the professors and instructors throughout higher education. Who was standing there as the signing was taking place? A number of legislators, leadership in the House and Senate, and then also Jim Trussell. So our organization was primarily concerned with the fact that, is this one of those cases where he was for it before he was against it, or was he just seeing this as a political opportunity to, show that he was in opposition to DEI and he was in support of the bill? So our organization, we certainly do not feel that, this is somebody that we want to see as our next governor.
All right. So that bill that you were just mentioning, that was House Bill 68, correct?
That was House Bill 1. I'm sorry, Senate Bill 1 this year, and that was Senator Jerry Serino's bill. Senate Bill 1 and House Bill 68 was the bill by House Rep Gary Click, and that was the last General Assembly. And House Bill 68, Joe, was had everything to do with Save Women's Sports, as well as the SAFE Act, which was to keep children from being surgically mutilated because of gender dysphoria in the state of Ohio. That bill was passed by the General Assembly, and I should also mention that not one single Democrat voted for that bill, not one. And it went to the governor's desk. He kept it for as long as he was able to before automatically it becomes law, and vetoed that. And of course, we have in the state of Ohio this 136th General Assembly, which started in January. We have a supermajority in both the House and Senate. We have 65 Republicans in the House, 24 Republicans in the Senate, and it requires 3/5 to override anything that the governor vetoes. That means 60 votes in the House, 20 votes in the Senate. So ultimately, House Bill 68 was, in fact, they did override that. It became law. But how in the world could anyone think that it was appropriate or ever would be appropriate for biological men to compete in women's sports? Or how could anyone think that it would be appropriate to see children being surgically mutilated? I've often said this in the past, Joe. A term is used, not many people are aware of it, a therian. A therian is somebody who thinks that they're an animal. And if you have a 14-year-old girl who thinks that she's a cat, what normally you're going to do, you're going to see, okay, we need to seek some type of, mental health treatment for this young lady. you don't automatically go to the parents and say, well, would you rather have a dead girl or a live cat in your home? I mean, it's ridiculous. So this gender dysphoria, children, suicide rate is I believe it's 3 to 4 times higher for those that have had this transition surgery. Especially, many people should take the time to listen to the testimony that was given to even Governor DeWine at the time, Chloe Cole, who was a young lady who at 13 was put on puberty blockers. At 15, she had her breast removed, and now she's trying to move back and retransition to be a female.
Yeah, and just to think how that plays with a person's mind. My God. So what they're doing is they're creating these kids to commit suicide. I mean, if they're giving them the puberty blockers, these surgeries, they're screwing with their brains, and these are kids. Okay, they're being manipulated. They're very, trusting to the parents or something like that. They can be talked into anything. So then they get the surgery and everything. Now the boy's a girl, girl's a boy, whatever the hell. And now they want to commit suicide. And then it's like, oh, well, we've got to have all these counselors to counsel these kids so that they don't commit suicide. I mean, now you see how ridiculous that is. I got confused. House Bill 68 was the previous General Assembly.
Yes.
It was the previous one. Now, House Bill 68, which you were just going through, that also got axed by DeWine. He
Yes,
did not
it did.
want that. And everyone, from what I remember, this is the previous General Assembly, everybody was for it. And they overrode it. But how could he... Now let's get into some of the psyche for a minute. Why would a governor, when your entire legislature wants something and common sense do it, why would he veto that?
Well, that's a big question that the General Assembly is asking. And I have to also state, without mentioning names, I have spoken to members of the House and Senate after the governor's veto of 66 items in this budget bill. But, they're not happy at all. And I stated, as you alluded to earlier, Joe, on Bob France's program a week ago today, that, when you come right down to it, if I was a member of the General Assembly, as far as I'm concerned, that's a shot across the bow of our legislative branch of government coming from the governor when he comes in with 67 vetoes. I should state that there's indication that many of those vetoes, how many, I'm not sure, but many of them will be overridden by the General Assembly. They do have the votes. I mentioned earlier that all it requires is 60 votes in the House. They have 65 Republicans. They should not expect one Democrat to vote for it. And then also they have 24 Republicans in the Senate, and they just need 20 votes in the Senate to override the governor's veto.
Okay, well, that it can be done, but these guys are all on vacation, right? I mean, that's the biggest problem you got here. So it's going to be a while. I don't think they come back till October.
Well, I understand, Joe, that we're looking at September timeframe. That's what I'm hearing. I mean, they could even have a special session where they come back. The House and Senate. Here's the thing. I should also mention, since the budget bill originated in the House, all of the overrides must originate in the House. The House leadership, Senate leadership will be working together, I'm sure, on this House bill override. And then it will, be passed by the House, go to the Senate for their passage, and then those provisions are overridden. I had one legislator basically state to me, in line with Donald Trump's, his big beautiful bill, one big bill, and so forth. He said, "Well, it's going to be a big beautiful override." So that's what they'll be working on.
Yeah, I hear you. It's a big head scratcher for me. So the head scratcher with DeWine, okay? He just is digging himself into a hole bigger and bigger all the time. And and I think, but we've still got him for a long time.
Well, that's another interesting.
This ain't happening quick. He's going to be with us for a long time yet.
Well, no, it's not. It's either 551 or 552 days. I tell you what, all you have to do is just, do a Google search or a DuckDuck search on, how many days till January 11th, 2027. And I think we're at 551, 552, but that's how many days. I mentioned this on, once again, Bob Francis' show, but back whenever Bill Clinton was president, Rush Limbaugh, every single day he came on the air, he says, well, the Americans are held hostage X number of days by Bill Clinton until he's out of office. Well, I tell you, there's a lot of people counting down as far as DeWine is concerned. And we definitely are. I'm looking for new, fresh leadership in the governor's office.
Yeah, we got to get Ramaswamy in there. If nothing else, there is going to be some really fresh leadership coming in with Ramaswamy, who's already built up a huge war chest, $27 million. He got $27 million already. So, and then the entire Ohio Republican Party is backing him. I know you're backing him, Ramaswamy. So I don't see Trussell throwing his hat in. It just would be it would be an insult at this point, I think, for him.
Well, you're absolutely right, Joe. I mean, it would be political suicide, in my opinion. But then again, who knows? I mean, what? One of the things that's rather interesting here is that you have Amy Acton, the former health director that we saw every single day on the screen whenever COVID was an issue here in our country and state. She's filed to run as a Democrat for governor. And, it's been asked of Mike DeWine if, do you plan on endorsing a Democrat? And he claims that he has no intention to. But I tell you what, if there's been somebody, if there's been an individual that's been masquerading as a Republican who's actually a Democrat, the old cliche wolves in sheep's clothing, it's definitely Mike DeWine.
Well, I don't want to spread any rumors, but I heard that Amy Acton is going to choose Governor DeWine as her lieutenant governor if she gets elected. You heard that here first.
Well, you have some real inside information, Joe, I'm telling you.
We got some insider. What do you think, Jonathan? Has the world gone crazy yet? Have we gone nuts yet? That's what I want to know.
The world has definitely gone nuts. That's a foregone conclusion that happened a long time ago. It's up to us to try and work to bring some semblance of sanity back to the thing. So unpacking all the things that we just talked about, starting with Coach Tressel. I'm a sports fan just like anybody else. I like football, and I follow Ohio State football. Hooray, cool. We won some titles. That's awesome. I love the games. But there's a line that has to be drawn there. There is no sane, reasonable, rational world where there's any sort of a line, zigzag, straight, or otherwise, between coaching a football team and running a state. So let's just get that out of the way right away. I'm looking at a message, actually. I saw it on Facebook earlier today, and I just happened to remember who posted it. It's one of my instructors, and I went and grabbed it for our conversation. And he just simply posted one of these goofy emojis, and it says simply, "How did we get into this mess, you ask? Well, too many of you had football coaches for history teachers." It's a great post. It really highlights the fact that we, as a nation, don't pay enough attention to history. And we've put far too much confidence in people that we like. And it's not just football coaches. There are people out there who are likable, they've accomplished something that we find exciting, and somehow we make this leap of logic to assume that they're going to be good in some wildly different role. Coach Tressel fits in that category. A long time ago, he was a coach of Ohio State football, and he did great things that Ohio State football fans like. That has nothing to do with governorship and running a state. So let's just cross that one off the board. But when it gets into all of these vetoes from Mike DeWine, I don't even like to call him Governor DeWine. He is the governor that we end up with when we allow the Democrats to choose our governor for us. That's how we ended up with DeWine. We've opened primaries. The Democrats crossed over and voted him in. In my book, that's where we are and how we got here. But there's a point that I want to make, and this goes to many of the fine guests that we've had on this program. And if you pay attention to the good guys versus the bad guys in Columbus, Ohio, there's something that's a little bit off radar for many people throughout the state, and that is the work that goes into creating legislation. The bills that are proposed, when we hear, and we've had Stephanie Stock on a number of times, and she talks about the work that goes in with her and Representative Jennifer Gross, another great recurring guest on this program, in creating the medical freedom bill. And they work really hard on these things. Now imagine the 66 or 67, I thought it was 67, but John Stover said 66, the 60 plus people, the 60 plus, bills that have been worked on, the pieces of legislation that have been refined and haggled over and finally made their way through and finally ran the gauntlet and got approval from both sides, the House and the Senate, only to get onto DeWine's desk and get a line item veto. That should be infuriating. We hire these people. We elect them to be our representatives. And yes, they make mistakes. And yes, sometimes they can be corrupted. But they are doing a lot of work to try to get things passed for we, the people of Ohio. And to have Governor DeWine, Mike DeWine, line item veto these things is infuriating. And one thing to the good in factoring in John Stover's statement about where a veto has to come from. It has to come from the House side. The one thing that, in my view, I think bodes well for us in Ohio, I believe that the House leans significantly more conservative than our state Senate. John may disagree. I've opened that up for conversation.
Yeah,
but I believe that's the case, and I believe if we can pull off some vetoes and get some of these things back into the books after Mike DeWine's veto, I'm hopeful that maybe the House can pull it off.
All right, I've got that. Very good, John. I got a couple questions for you here. Because you're so active, you do a lot of testimony. You're at the State House all the time. So, what is your impression of the State House? Is it more conservative than the Senate? And what's your impression of the Senate then, too?
Well, I work with legislators both in the House and the Senate. We see a lot of good bills, that seem to be generated in the House that end up, for example, House Bill 68 that we mentioned earlier. That, of course, was a House bill. Anytime you have a bill that is introduced in one chamber, it must go through committee and then, of course, pass on the House floor, and then it goes over to the Senate, and they have committee hearings, and then it has to be passed on the Senate floor. So as far as who's more conservative, who's not, you have, I guess what I would say, you have those, and remember, it wasn't X number of senators that were renegades last General Assembly. We had 22, they call them Blue 22, et cetera, that crossed the aisle to work with the Democrats, and so. I would say you have your fair share of conservatives in both chambers. And regarding the Freudian slip, if I said 66, it's definitely 67. I don't know how I said 66, Jonathan, but we definitely have 67 overrides, and it is a slap in the face to the General Assembly and to leadership. This is not something that's done in a vacuum. Anytime that they're working on a budget in the House and Senate, the leadership is constantly communicating with the governor's office. So the governor knew what he was going to receive, and the governor knows that the votes are there to override him. Getting back to Jim Tressel very quickly, I think what Mike DeWine was attempting to do was take a couple of, if I can use the football example. They've taken a few plays out of the book of what happened in Alabama with Tommy Tuberville. You remember he was the coach of Auburn University from 1999 to 2008. And lo and behold, he was elected to serve as senator, U.S. senator from the great state of Alabama. So, I think they feel that Mike DeWine felt that this was the only opportunity he had to keep his legacy going, and that is to see that, he select Jim Tressel as the lieutenant governor.
Yeah. No, I kind of agree with you. I think it was a Tressel 2.0. And here's the problem. I mean, not Tressel 2.0. I mean, a DeWine 2.0. Tressel would be a 2.0 of DeWine. Whatever. But the thing is, with Tressel, yeah, he was an outstanding football coach. One of my favorite. And I still remember that 2002 national championship. That just blew my mind. The greatest game ever. But that doesn't mean you're going to be great as a politician or you know what the hell's going on. And he doesn't. He's very green. He's very easy to be manipulated. But he has this incredible name identification, and so that's probably what's going through the mind of DeWine is, hey, this guy, I can manipulate him, and he's got name ID coming out, just crazy. Let's run with it. But the state party endorsed Vivek early, and they slammed that door shut. And they slammed it shut because we didn't want any of that kind of malarkey going on. We've got to clean up the state of Ohio, and that's how we're going to do it. Now, I don't know about Vivek. Nobody does, because the guy's a rookie as well. But he's young. He's got a lot of enthusiasm. He's got a lot of money. He's from the MAGA movement. So let's just go with it and see what happens. Okay, that's pretty much what's going on there. Let me just ask.
Joe?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but speaking of cleaning up, we have a comment in the chat.
Okay.
And that the comment comes from Angela Jill Marlowe. Plus, they added more stipulations in regards to the Ohio Sunshine Laws, changing email correspondence transparency rules. Less transparency? ? It's a great point for anybody that's not following it. What they're pushing for is, and I imagine John Stover has some great comments on this as well, what they're pushing for is to allow communications between state legislators and their staff, the assistants that they use, to remain secret and not subject to disclosure and transparency until the end of the term. So it might be a full 2 years where communications on key issues and important subjects would be hidden from we the people. That's what is being commented on here. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, we're going to get John's thoughts on that if he has any thoughts on that too. Yeah, we need transparency, though. We absolutely need transparency. So I got one other line, and you can go with either route, what Jonathan was talking about, or the REINS Act, which to me is
let me
also...
just say, Joe, if I may, just regarding the comments made by Jonathan. One of the things that the Secretary of State's office is responsible for, and that is, open meetings, sunshine law, and so forth. And anyone that runs for office and ultimately is elected, they have a book that they provide all elected officials that could choke a horse that basically states, what you should be and should not be doing. And, one of the things that would be prohibitive is if outside of course, a caucus meeting, these caucus meetings take place behind closed doors. For example, we're talking about the General Assembly, the Democrats and Republicans, they get behind closed doors. And even though there's a majority there, they're permitted to talk about things in private. Now, when it comes to, matters as it relates to, legislation, there's a fine line. They have to, in fact, make sure that, the public has an opportunity to weigh in, public comment. And this is one of the areas where, a lot of school boards have run into issues, where you have parents going to a school board meeting. And how many times have we seen, and Jonathan, you're aware of this because I know you've attended these school board meetings, you have a situation where a parent will stand up and they'll start reading from one of these inappropriate books that have been provided to their children in the classroom or the library. And all of a sudden, the school board president or another member will look at them and say, "I'm sorry, we're going to have to stop you. We don't use that type of language around here." But lo and behold, it's all right, for a third or fourth grader to have access to. But getting back to the comment, there is a fine line that has to be followed when it comes to the business of the public and people having full disclosure and having knowledge of legislation that's being discussed, etc.
Very good. And let me know, Jonathan, if anybody else throw something into the chat. Well, we encourage that incredibly. Hey, I want to ask you, maybe we'll just end on this and get some of your thoughts here on Ohio Revised Code 5122.04, because I heard you talking about that a lot on Bob France's show, and it didn't sound like you were very happy with it. Do you want to just briefly explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. That once again, that law has been on the books since 1989. It was signed into law by Dick Celeste as governor. The problem with the current law as it reads is that a child 14 years of age and older can basically state that they want to have none of their mental health treatment being made known to their parents. It can be 6 sessions or up to a month. Now, Joe, I know that you printed this off, and I urge your listeners and those that are tuning in to do likewise. Just go out there and do a search on Ohio Revised Code 5122.04. It's very short, but the child can receive up to a 14-year-old and older. Can receive up to 6 treatments or a month, whatever comes first, once again, without their parents' notification. And there's no guarantee, there's nothing that guarantees that a parent's going to be notified even after the treatment or the month expires. There's also, the law is silent relative to the fact that a 14-year-old could then turn into a 15-year-old and go back in for the same treatment for either 6 sessions or a month, and do likewise at 17 and 18, et cetera. So this is a major problem. We want to see this repealed in its entirety by the General Assembly. One of the things that happened, Joe, last year in December, it was ultimately passed, sent to the governor's office. He signed it into law in January, and that was the Parents' Bill of Rights. And that Parents' Bill of Rights basically states that a parent should be involved in all elements of their child. And this is a major conflict of interest when, it's just not something that we need to have as a law in the state of Ohio, because it does not permit parents to be parents and know specifically the health of their child.
Yeah, it really undermines the family trust, as they say. And the other thing, too, it seems that it's really geared towards the LGBTQ type youth who might be confused. And, this is kind of what the treatment is gearing it towards, in my mind. The way I'm reading this, it seems like that's why the LGBT community is so big on it. And, again, it's problematic because DeWine is, I'm sure he's behind all this again. So we've dug ourselves into a hole with this governor, and it's obvious now. Okay, he's not even hiding the fact that he's very liberal and democratic and everything. Even with his policies that are with taxes and stuff are just crazy. The whole thing is just.
Joe, if, just to add, regarding, you mentioned about Vivek Ramaswamy, he doesn't have a record, et cetera. So, and that's one of the things that I know, Jonathan, you've heard me say this in the past, and I say it tongue in cheek, but to some extent, there's a lot of truth and reality to this. When we have individuals come to us seeking our endorsement, and Vivek Ramaswamy, he sought our endorsement. I had an opportunity to sit down with him, and we spoke for a good hour about a number of issues to make sure that he's where he needed to be as far as serving as our next governor. But anytime we have somebody that doesn't have a record, Joe, I've often have said this. I said, there's only two ways that we would know if it's heartfelt and it's really something that they mean, and it comes down to either we hook them up to a polygraph, and we're not going to do that, or we have to waterboard them to get the truth out of them. So we can do neither. Anytime we have somebody looking for an endorsement that has a record, it makes it much easier for our organization and our board to decide whether we will or not endorse an individual.
Yeah, I like the idea of that waterboarding. We might actually get every politician has to be waterboarded to make sure they're telling the truth. Wow, hey, we got our Kent must actually be in the background somewhere. Angela, Jill, Marlowe, plus they added.
Yeah, that's the one that I read.
Oh, that's the one you read. Okay, all right. We got to that. All right, John, I want to thank you a ton. I'm going to give Jonathan. You want to say a parting word because you guys used to work together, so you know each other very, very well and everything.
Absolutely.
Well, I have the great respect for John and Diane Stover and the work they do at Ohio Value Voters. They started Protect Ohio Children. I had the great honor of serving about 3 years as a board member, chair, and territory lead at Protect Ohio Children. As a matter of fact, when I first started doing this show, I was filling that role. I still volunteer. I just have no formal role at this time. It's every bit of my heart is in protecting Ohio children and beyond. And I just have great admiration for the work that they do. And it's been an honor being involved. One thing connected to that, and it looks like we have another comment coming up. I'll finish my thought and then maybe we can read that and react to it. But when we look at all of this focus on race training and racism and CRT rebranded as diversity, equity, and inclusion and critical theory, and then introducing gender theory, sexualization of children, first thing to know is there's nothing new under the sun. This stuff has all been done before. There's history. Let's go back and be aware of the history behind things like the sexualization of children. It's done for a reason. Bad people do it to accomplish bad things. When we can acknowledge that and stop thinking of it as some sort of new avant-garde, we're released from moral bounds and all that stuff. It's all nonsense and fiction. It's history trying to repeat. But where schools are concerned, I coined an expression years ago. I call it all ABE, A-B-E, which stands for anything but education. We have a school system now throughout Ohio that has turned into an expression I think that more people might immediately gravitate toward or understand is an education industrial complex. It is designed to funnel in and waste money. And the last thing at the very bottom of the list of however many thousands of things they might be interested in spending money on, the very last thing on the list is education, a proper education for children. And that is horrible. We need to acknowledge that in order to be able to fix it. Because if education is the key that opens all doors, we have a school system in Ohio and many other states that is determined to leave as many doors locked as possible for this generation and beyond. That's what we fight for, and that's a big part of the reason that we evaluate these legislative action, what's taking place in Columbus, and comment on these horrendous overrides from people like Mike DeWine.
Yeah, absolutely. Horrendous is a good word. Well, John, I'm gonna thank you again for coming on. If there's what's the latest now with Ohio Value Voters? What are you guys working at? Well, let's see. Let me read this tweet here. Maybe it isn't about hiding, but about solidifying his exit strategy. Oh, talking about DeWine. I think they're talking about DeWine. Solidifying his exit strategy. Yeah, who knows? I can't figure it out. One thing I do know is DeWine is a master politician. I will give him credit for that. He has mastered it, okay? And you're never going to be able to figure him out totally. But what's the latest, or what do you guys got in store going forward in the near future that you're working on or anything like that? If you just want to leave that parting words with us, if you would.
Well, Joe, if your viewers, listeners will, go to ohiovaluevoters.org, they can see the legislation that we are, in fact, keeping an eye on. If I can leave, one last thing here, I would state, this is the last General Assembly again. It happened about a year ago, and that what turned out to be Senate Bill 1 in the last General Assembly, and that had everything to do with turning over education to the governor. So the governor right now has, he's responsible for K through 12, and it's rather interesting, Joe, but there are roughly 5 to 6 bills right now in the House and in the Senate, a few in the Senate, that the governor has the authority and ability. We talk about the President of the United States and his executive order ability. The governor has similar powers, administrative rule and executive order, that he could issue regarding education, where he could basically take every single one of the provisions of what I consider to be excellent bills. We talked about DEI. There's a great bill regarding DEI that has been introduced by Senator Andrew Brenner, chairman of the Education Committee of the Senate, and that will deal with DEI from K through 12. The governor could put that in place right now if he chose to, but he does not choose to, just like we have a number of other bills that he could, through administrative rule, put in place, waiting for it to be codified and signing it into law. So, the governor, well, I said one last thing. Do we have a few minutes here, Joe? If not,
Go ahead. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. Let me just say this as well. This was about 5 years ago, back whenever, my wife and I, we were in better graces with the governor. We were invited to the governor's residency in Columbus. Here we go down, and we're going through the front door, and the governor is standing to the right. We're moved straight ahead, and they try to get us to bypass the governor so we wouldn't cross paths. Well, I look back, and he's standing there by himself, no one there to greet him. So I walk back, and I look at him. I said, "Governor," I said, we have a real problem in education. And he looks at me and he says, "I know. I get all of your email updates," which he does. I made sure that he receives them. And I said, "Well, I'd like to, come down and meet with you in your office for 30, 45 minutes at the most, so that we can sit down and discuss some of these educational matters that we're dealing with here in the state." So he calls over his aide, and he says, "Hey, mark this down." So I thought for sure I'm going to get a call right from his scheduler. Well, 2 days later, I get a call from one of his top lieutenants, and he basically says, "Well, the governor is not going to meet with you." Okay. If that's the case, then I think we know where the governor stands when it comes to education, or being concerned about the issues the state's facing as far as education is concerned. So that was the last time that I had spoken privately, Joe, with the governor, and I've had no conversations since that time.
I'm just gonna follow piggyback on one thing with that. We talk a lot about property taxes on this show. And Brian Massey, who's now with us tonight, he's one of the core group members for that Abolish the Ohio Property Tax, and he is doing a lot of work. I mean, they're getting the word out very well. I think we got a really good chance that could be on the November ballot in 2026. And boy, that's going to raise some eyebrows if that ever passes. But we were looking at the overrides with the property taxes, and it's everything to do with the schools. Everything to do with the schools. So it's like, this property tax might hurt the schools. It's killing the citizens. That doesn't seem to matter. But because it might disrupt some of the schools, or they can't carry over as much money because it would hurt the schools. Everything is about the school. Well, you know who his big donors are. You know who's feeding his campaigns. So that's his whole That's where he's all centered on, is the schools, which is terrible. If he wants to be a Democrat, go be a Democrat. That's what I say. But
No, that's exactly right. Joe, I heard here recently, within the last week, that one of the smaller school districts here in Cuyahoga County, it was told me that from a local individual who happens to be in the know, it cost this local school district, a small one, $19,000 per student to educate this student as far as the school district is concerned. And this is where you have people certainly concerned and upset relative to the property taxes, because that's where the schools obtain most of their monies, is through property tax. And you have to, if we're talking about the private sector and a business, you don't continue to throw money at a business that's not performing. You really don't. This is why the Ed Choice, I commend the General Assembly for putting that in place. And once again, hopefully we can get these education savings accounts in place for a number of these parents that want to get their children out of the public school system.
Yeah. Well, John, thanks again. Really appreciate your time here tonight, and God bless you and your organization. We'll talk to you soon, I hope, okay?
Yes, absolutely, Joe. Thank you for having me, and it's always good talking with Jonathan. That is for sure. All I can say is that he is a real fighter, and he's the type of individual, such as yourself, Joe, and many others throughout the state. We just need to continue to bring to light these injustices that are taking place by those in high office places, whether it's the governor or whoever it might be.
Got it. Have
We're
a good
trying.
night, John.
Keep up the good work, John. Great to see you.
You too.
Now you're the ones who've lost their touch.